June 12, 2025, a day of national shock. Air India, the country's pride, was at the center of a devastating aviation disaster. News of a modern Boeing 787 Dreamliner crash spread rapidly, leaving India and the world in disbelief. The tragedy shattered the airline's image, raising urgent questions about safety and trust in technology. Families waited in agony for news, while the nation mourned together, united in grief and confusion. As the day ended, unanswered questions and a profound sense of loss lingered, making this more than just a headline. It was a national trauma. The journey to uncover the truth had only begun. Confusion deepened as two conflicting crash reports emerged from major news outlets. One account placed the disaster in Ahmedabad, with Flight AI-171 crashing after takeoff, igniting a medical hostel and causing mass casualties. Another report described Flight 812 crashing in Mumbai during a stormy landing, splitting apart on the runway. Families were left in anguish, unsure which story was true, as authorities scrambled to clarify the facts. The existence of two narratives compounded the pain, making the search for answers even more urgent. Establishing the basic facts became the first challenge for investigators and the nation. Both reported crash sites were scenes of utter chaos and devastation, with confusion and panic spreading among survivors and rescuers alike. The night air was thick with the sounds of sirens, shouts, and the crackle of burning wreckage as emergency teams rushed to respond to the unfolding disaster. In Ahmedabad, a massive fireball erupted, lighting up the night sky and engulfing the area in a terrifying blaze. The jet's fuel turned the crash into a raging inferno, trapping victims and making it nearly impossible for rescuers to reach those in need. Flames leapt high, casting eerie shadows as firefighters battled desperately to contain the fire. Meanwhile, at Mumbai's airport, the situation was no less dire. Torrential monsoon rains battered the scene as the plane broke apart on impact, scattering debris across the runway. The relentless downpour hampered visibility and made the ground slippery, complicating rescue efforts and putting both survivors and rescuers at greater risk. Emergency crews faced a relentless battle against fire, rain, and twisted debris. Every second counted as they raced against time, navigating hazardous conditions to save as many lives as possible. The combination of elements created a nightmarish scene, testing the limits of their training and courage. The sheer scale of destruction overwhelmed first responders, who found themselves battling not only the elements, but also the overwhelming aftermath of the crashes. Exhaustion set in quickly, yet they pressed on, determined to do whatever they could for the victims and their families. Airports across the region shut down, flights were cancelled, and the nation watched in horror as news of the twin disasters spread. The ripple effects were felt far beyond the crash sites, with families anxiously awaiting word and the world's attention focused on the unfolding tragedy. Amid the chaos, local heroes emerged, volunteers, neighbors, and off-duty workers, risking their own safety to help. But the hazardous conditions, from burning wreckage to torrential rain, made every rescue attempt a race against impossible odds. As the night wore on, the world waited anxiously for updates, while rescue crews fought to regain control and account for the missing and the injured. The struggle to save lives and bring order to the chaos had only just begun. As casualty numbers solidified, the human toll became heartbreakingly clear. The scale of the disaster was overwhelming, with families and friends anxiously awaiting news that would forever change their lives. The aftermath was filled with confusion, disbelief, and a desperate search for answers. In Ahmedabad, only one of 242 survived, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh. His miraculous escape made global headlines, capturing the attention of people everywhere. Against all odds, he emerged from the wreckage, dazed but alive, a living testament to the unpredictability of fate. Yet Vishwas's survival was bittersweet. His brother was among the dead, and his story became a symbol of both hope and loss. The pain of losing a loved one, even while surviving, was a heavy burden to bear, and his experience resonated deeply with countless others. The world watched as stories of survival and heartbreak unfolded, each one more poignant than the last. News outlets shared interviews with survivors, who described the chaos and terror of those fateful moments. In Mumbai, 91 of 178 survived, many injured but alive thanks to the tireless efforts of rescue teams and perhaps the unique circumstances of the crash. Emergency responders worked through the night, pulling survivors from the wreckage and providing urgent medical care. Survivors recounted harrowing escapes, describing moments of fear and courage, while families mourned loved ones lost just minutes from home. The airport became a place of both heartbreak and relief, as some were reunited and others faced devastating news. Each victim had a story, each survivor a tale of resilience. The faces of those affected reflected a spectrum of emotions: grief, gratitude, and the struggle to comprehend what had happened. The focus on rare survival only underscored the scale of tragedy for so many others. Candlelight vigils and memorials sprang up across the country, honoring the memories of those lost. The nation grieved together, united by stories of loss and the faintest glimmers of hope. In the face of unimaginable tragedy, communities came together, finding strength in shared sorrow and the enduring spirit of survival. Rescue operations faced relentless obstacles. Fire in Ahmedabad, where flames leapt high into the night sky, casting an eerie glow over the chaos. Emergency teams rushed in, their yellow raincoats and helmets barely visible through thick smoke and the flicker of burning debris. Meanwhile, torrential rain battered Mumbai, turning the crash site into a treacherous, waterlogged landscape. In Ahmedabad, the intense heat and roaring flames forced teams to keep their distance, making every attempt to reach survivors a perilous gamble. The hope of saving lives was delayed by the sheer force of the blaze. In Mumbai, rescuers struggled through thick mud and near zero visibility, their boots sinking into the ground as they pressed forward. Stormy weather and relentless rain made every step a challenge, forcing teams to carry heavy equipment by hand through chaos and confusion. The air was filled with the sounds of shouting, rushing water, and distant sirens. Both sites demanded extraordinary courage and determination from emergency crews, who worked tirelessly, soaked to the bone, and driven by the hope of finding survivors. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also unwavering resolve. The National Disaster Response Force soon joined local teams, bringing specialized skills, advanced equipment, and a renewed sense of hope to the desperate situation. Airports across the region shut down, their runways empty and terminals eerily silent as the world watched the unfolding tragedy and the heroic efforts of the responders. The rescue was a grim, painstaking process, a race against time, fire, and the unforgiving elements. News of the disaster spread quickly, and the world held its breath. Firefighters and emergency workers pushed themselves to the limit, racing against the clock as flames threatened to consume any remaining hope. Their heroism shone through the devastation, but the brutal reality of the disaster was inescapable. As dawn broke, the scale of the tragedy became heartbreakingly clear, leaving a lasting mark on all who witnessed it. In the aftermath, grief gave way to mourning and questions. Families endured agonizing waits for identification, with funerals and vigils uniting communities in sorrow. Survivors like Vishwash led emotional farewells, their pain broadcast across the nation. Spontaneous memorials and acts of compassion brought comfort, but also a growing demand for answers. How could such a tragedy happen? Conflicting reports fueled public anger and speculation. The nation mourned, but also demanded accountability and change. The tragedy became a catalyst for collective reflection and resolve. The official response was swift. Investigations launched, black boxes recovered, and international experts called in. The government promised transparency and compensation, while Air India grounded its Dreamliner fleet for safety checks. The crash forced a reckoning in Indian aviation, reigniting debates about monsoon operations and aircraft maintenance. Experts called for stricter regulations and better infrastructure. The tragedy became a turning point, demanding vigilance and reform. For families, no investigation could undo the loss, but the hope was for a safer future. The legacy of June 12, 2025 must be lasting change, so such a disaster is never repeated.